It's Monday here at BraveNewCoin. That means it's Setup Monday. Let's take a look at some of the most relevant charts for the coming week, in my opinion. Starting with BTC, the king, the Mac Daddy, the one that started it all, has survived a terrible September, of which it is no stranger. Seasonality is a thing because on backtesting, that's what it says, right? Now, September historically has never been good. This faked me out even a little bit because we broke above this previous support turned resistance and then immediately nuked down. So at that point, you're either trapped or panicked and grasping for something that will give you a reason. You know, not only did we have one nuke, but we had two nukes down almost through 40K. But just as October turned around, as did price. So far, so good. It's early, but things are looking okay. The worst that could happen going forward here is a break of 40K. This is now an extremely large support because it's, if you lose 40, then it goes to 30, most likely. But it's good that we are establishing lots of price history in this range, even though it's ugly and volatile and all over the place. If this goes to 130 or higher, then on the way down, the inevitable crash, when it happens, we'll have some place to squirrel around that isn't 20K, right? So we held that support, currently back at that resistance, potential diag as well. I don't know what to really think of this, but again, it's early. It's October, it's Q4. We should be bullish. What do the MA say? What do the targets say? This isn't a weekly target, but something to keep in mind. On the 2-year MA multiplier, 130 is the target. Anything above that is a sell zone. It can go way above for a long time, but this indicator is telling you, here's the 2-year MA, and this is the 5x multiplier. If that works on backtesting, which historically this does, limited data set, sure, but buy zone, sell zone, your sell zone is 130 plus. We can also measure this with fibs from all-time high to 30K low, and we get a range of 85 to 97 as far as the expected target if we break all-time highs. The cloud is also telling you we've gone from bullish to neutral edge-to-edge breakdown, bearish, neutral edge-to-edge break up, very briefly bullish here, an attempt to die, and now we've crisscrossed again on the Tenkan Kijun. In the coming weeks or the coming days, this should cross bullish again. If you get a bullish TK cross with price above cloud, that is the single most bullish indicator in the cloud system. If it happens, when it happens, it's not going to look great. It's not going to look pretty. It's not going to be screaming at you, but it's going to tell you that we are above resistance or potential resistance with a crisscross of the MAs. Even though they're not MAs on the cloud, you can think of them like that, the TK lines. So we are above the cloud with a bullish cross. That's go time. And in November 2020, it didn't look as ugly as this, but it looked unimpressive. This was a crisscross in November 2020 that really lifted us off in Q4. We have a very similar setup situation, not as spring consolidation like with COVID. March, we also had a crisscross that kind of failed. So this may crisscross a couple times. I don't know, but the point is we are on the bullish side of bullish with a bullish TK cross like that. We also have this pitchfork. Just pick 3 points, you get a rate of change. It's pretty mild elevation as far as expectations for movements, but you can use it as a barometer for, again, are we on the bullish side of this or are we on the bearish side of this? Are we hitting these diags? Are we just bouncing around randomly? This needs more time to fill in, but even this likes basically all-time highs. From here, if we're able to hold on to this through Q4, the daily alligator fractal has crisscrossed over and over and over again since September. Today will cross bullish with a break above a bullish fractal. So both of these are telling you, yeah, this is a good time to either stay long or be long based on trend. Currently, there is no stop loss. There's no trailing stop loss other than 40K. So it's telling you give us a wide berth. You know, this could inverted head and shoulders, even shoulder head, and the shoulder would be around 44K in the week to mid-October, something like that. But otherwise, this looks fine. Again, the worst that could happen is a break of 40. You don't want to see that ever under any circumstances. ETH, using that same MA multiplier logic, is painting a 10K target. It can cruise above that. It can tap it and get denied, but that's the level to watch. Anything above that is extra. Icing on the cake, gilding the lily. It's definitely giving you hints that it's time to get out based on MAs and back testing. If we pop on the cloud plus a pitchfork, we barely skimmed the bottom of this, barely stayed alive under the cloud through September, but we have bounced. We probably will get a TK cross here on the daily cloud with price above cloud. If that happens, all the same logic applies to BTC as it does ETH. It's a long signal. It's the best long signal you can get. If you backtest these, they have an extremely high hit rate and they happen once a quarter, if that. They are very rare to happen like this, which is why when I see it, I say, hey guys and gals, this is a long entry signal. Not investment advice, but this is exactly what the cloud tells you to do when you're looking for a long, is to look for this. ETH's alligator fractal stuff also crossing bullish, also breaking above levels. And if we add a fib high to low on this, we get a target of 6 to 7 as early as November. If we're able to hit this midline, median line with the vim and vigor that we had previously leading up to April, May. But trend-wise, this looks okay based on cloud, based on MAs. ETHBTC is a weird one. I don't trade this directly. It's usually all over the place, but we broke out of this horizontal level and went straight to the other edge of this pitchfork. And then we flagged out. The expectation from then on is if we break up, which we should, with the bias being bullish on that pattern, that we should break up with the strength of the measured move. That was around 0.09. We're kind of struggling at this level to continue. Now, a lot can happen in Q4, but ETH has never outperformed BTC in Q4. It's never happened. So it's hard to assume it's going to happen this quarter. I'm not going to say it can't happen, but I'm saying it's never happened. If this plays out like a head and shoulders on low time frames, this is the 3-day. So this is kind of zoomed way out, but you can see this in the making here. Shoulder, head, shoulder. I talk about these chart patterns because they happen all the time on every single coin, in legacy, in metals. It's the same stuff over and over and over again. Once you know the 5 or 6 of these, you can just see them on every chart. So the bias has gone from bullish continuation to bearish reversal, and that matches seasonality. So it's hard for me to think that ETH is going to outperform BTC by the end of the quarter. It's a long 3 months. A lot could happen. That's definitely something to watch for. On the weekly, the ETH BTC looks fine. It looks like, if anything, a cup and handle in the making is brewing here. RSI looks fine. Cloud looks fine. A bit of a TKC clamp, meaning the TK lines are separated. You have a flat Kijun and a flat Kumo. That indicates just no momentum whatsoever. You don't need the cloud to see that, but that can mean a suggestion, a soupçon of a retracement to 05, which is basically where these flat lines are. Cloud is all about finding momentum quickly, identifying it, staying on the right side of the trend. When things are flat, that typically means it's setting itself up for a reversion. Now, would I short this? No. I still think it looks fine, but it's telling you, obviously, the trend is not as strong as it was leading up to from September to September, right? One thing you could do is draw a parabolic line here, parabolic curve, and figure out where the bottom of that parabola would be and set some bids on that level if you want to trade this directly. Not something I would do, but something you could do. Something else that's exploding, I guess, for Tezos, it's an explosion. It hit all-time highs over the past couple days, around 9-ish. Just using fibs, again, if this thing actually moves with bullish continuation, then I like 10 to 12 easily. Beyond that, we'll see. But 10 to 12 is based on some conservative highs to lows here. The problem with Tezos is it's never really had extended bullish anything. It's kind of chopped around a lot. It's failed to hold on to highs a lot. I thought this would actually head and shoulders here. Shoulder, head, shoulder. You don't typically see these rising diagonal head and shoulders play out bearish, but there's always that risk, right? It's always in the back of my mind. Just like we had this diagonal inverted head and shoulders play out as expected. It was very possible that this thing could have broken down, but it didn't. Stayed above the cloud. The tell for this, if this would have broken down, would be below the cloud, right? It was never below the cloud the whole time. So anyway, it still looks good. It is a hot, choppy mess, so keep that in mind. But I like 10 to 12. That could be this week easily. Luna also had a diamond top, which is typically a reversal sign. So the first step is knowing what the patterns are, identifying them, figuring out what the bias is, and then finding out if that plays out, right? The entry for this trade is breaking a diag down here as far as your short entry with your expectation of a retracement to the opposite side of the fibs I have here. That would have been probably from 10 to 13, I don't know. But it didn't do that. It broke up, hit all-time highs. So the expectation now is this is a failed bearish reversal pattern, and this should lead to bullish continuation. The alligator fractals that I have on here are showing you it's crisscross from bearish back to bullish. It's above the fractal. So on trend, this looks fine. It's not a trade for me. I think this is up several multiples beyond what it's worth. But trend is telling you, yeah, this still looks bullish. And into this week, like Tezos, probably keeps going. AXS, same thing. It's not a trade for me. It's up way too many multiples from the bottom way too quickly. I don't want to buy someone else's bags. But the trend is bullish. You did get this crisscross on the cloud here. Bullish TK cross the price above cloud, the strongest bullish continuation signal you can get on the cloud. So it looks good for continuation, it's just not for me at all-time highs here. So alts and USD pairs should do fairly well this week. Against BTC, I'm not so sure. BTC's had quite a wild ride over the past couple days. And there's all sorts of macro stuff, all sorts of regulatory stuff, global regulatory stuff, China, never ending, energy stuff going on now. So lots of things that could impact price. But if I just stay on my deserted island, stay in my lane, pay attention to technicals, crypto, we look good here so far. We look good for Q4. We look good for the ETH fund as well as the DeFi fund, DeFi portfolio I trade for Techemy Capital on Enzyme.finance, a non-custodial portfolio management tool where you can send Ether USDC or just watch what I'm doing. You can see everything, including AUM performance, allocation, and the trades I make in the trade tab down below. The goal for this one is to be 100% crypto in Q4 once it's clear to me the winner between BTC and ETH. Currently it's split 30-38 between ETH and BTC. So this last tranche will probably be sent on the BTC camp based on seasonality, based on that 3-day head and shoulders potential, not really based on much else other than that. The seasonality for me is super strong with ETH BTC never being bullish in Q4. So that's all for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.